We're losers, you know. I don't want me, I shouldn't assume everybody here is a loser, but most of the people in this room, you know, we lost. And it's very humbling, and you got to watch what the results are. You know, it's just, you know, I really like Rachel Maddow. I watch it most, you know, she's on 5 nights a week. I usually turn it off after about 20 minutes because I can't take it anymore. But I just think that I like to know some of what's happened this week and what was decided. And it's unbelievable to me. I keep saying that I can't believe it. I say that probably every day. I can't believe it, but I have to believe it. It just is. And there's no easy formula to, when you're a loser, you know, and you see things happening you don't want to happen. And how do you be with that and not get, you don't have to get, it's better, like, you can circumvent, you can skip the anger and just be with the sadness and the grief, and then how can I help, you know, those things. But it's like he didn't want the dog to run across the street, but the dog ran across the street. And you can't stop that happened, you know. I don't have an answer except to be sad, you know, and be sad and then pay attention, really pay attention to the dynamics. And, you know, you can't just stop the dog, you can't stop Trump, you know. It's happening, it's just like full force, just unbelievable. You know, for me it is. A lot of people, maybe Stan told me this, someone, it was in the New Yorker, it was a cartoon. Did one of you two tell me today? There was this cartoon in the New Yorker, and the husband, it's a husband and wife. The husband opens the door to his wife's meditation room, and she's in the child position, in the child pose for yoga. She's just in the fetal, she's just like, and he said, honey, it's been 3 weeks. She hadn't gotten up for 3 weeks. So it's really funny, you know. So people get it. You know, they just want to suck your thumb or something. It's just like, oh. So I don't know, it's just hard times. Yeah, and there's so many people that are trying to figure, someone said that we need I said this, but where's the spearhead? Who's gonna stop this? Like, where's you know, it's like we're all this shaft. We wanna just hit it, but we need that, we don't have a method, we don't have any power. You know, we don't have a technique. Can we do it on the computer? Stop! You know? So it's just like trying to send people courage that can do something about this, you know, like, I don't know how it's going to manifest. It could be pretty exciting, you know. I don't know. We could talk for hours about that, so, yes.
You know, I heard you say that you met Zen Master Soeng Hyang in 1972, and within a matter of weeks or months, you know, he was having you give a Dharma talk, and like your first Dharma talk, and you could see him in the back of the room encouraging you, and that.
Oh, he's sitting right in front of me.
Oh, right.
We only had like 3 people there.
But what I noticed is that made you feel really good. In other words, his opinion mattered to you. And my question is, you know, in that, do you recall what it was in that short space of time where, you know, all of a sudden his opinion mattered a lot to you?
Anybody's encouragement would have mattered to me. It was encouragement. It's like if you're learning to ride a bike and, you know, your father's saying, you're never going to be able to do this. No, but they go, come on, you can do it, right? That's what a parent would say to their child when they teach them to ride the bike. They say, you can do it, great. You know, and then the kid has some confidence, that's all. Yeah.
Who's like a parent for you?
No, just, he was the audience. It was going like this. Never like a parent, never. Much more powerful than a parent, I think.
Talking a little bit more about what Jen asked earlier, how do we let go of resentment?
breathe it in, breathe it out, be with it, watch it, notice it. And what's the opposite of resentment? Find it, and then breathe that in and breathe that out. You know, it could be, it depends on the circumstances. You know, I mean, if you just send people you don't like a bunch of hate energy, it's not so good. It's not going to help. They send them there's some kind of patience, at least, energy or love energy, and that's very good for your body. It's very good for your mind. And you know, they say love conquers all. There's a reason why that's a cliche. You know, there's a reason. And so the older I get, the more I talk about love, like it's unconditional love. And so you can't love bad action, bad behavior, cruelty, short-sightedness, greed, power, anger. You can't love those things, but you can at least love this world and try to do your best and send out good vibes. And just because it's so much more helpful. So, you know, are you talking about some person you resent or a situation you resent?
Trauma.
Yeah.
Trauma, my ex-girlfriend, all sorts of people.
Yeah. So, you know, mantra's very helpful too. Sometimes you just do Kwanzaa Boso for everything, just for everything. You know, I really like Kwanzaa Boso. Deep breaths and just smooth your mind out so that you have a life. You know, years ago when that saying first came out, get a life, I really liked that. Because it's like, you're gonna hang around with your resentment and just like, or you're gonna just, what am I gonna do today? And, you know, get a life. And you can't change what happened, right? You're a loser. I just look in the mirror sometimes and go, you're a loser. I'm so frustrated, you know. Well, you got to accept it. You're lost, you know. Yeah. Charlie.
Listening to Mark, I go back to when he's standing on the street and the dog is still alive and they're connecting. And there's great hope at that point. And, you know, it doesn't work out. But with that hope, that sense of hope, much like I'm not one of those characters that holds on to hope, but there's an element of faith and maybe a sense of patience that I think a person needs, that is something that from this practice has developed for me. Not necessarily something that I hold on to. I'm not standing in front of the mirror and saying, yeah, I'm real hopeful about this. But what else can we do beside that?
Well, I like the word trust better than hope.
Okay, trust.
Yeah, because I knew the Seneca Indian, and she told me, she said, you know, it came up because we were teaching together, and she said, you know, we don't have the word hope in the language system, in their language system. And I said, well, what do you use? And she said, we use trust. I trust this will happen. I trust that this is a good lesson. I trust that, you know, I trust my son will go through what he needs to go through. You know, of course, I want him to get better. I love him, but the hope is kind of hopeless. Like, I hope he doesn't, you know, but if you trust that things will unfold as they need to. Maybe, you know, what is so bad about death in a way? I mean, I'm not saying it's great that the dog died, but in a way, he was knocked out. You know, it was over. We don't know about the progression of that dog's karma. We don't know. we just, as you said, don't know. We have no idea. It's not necessarily a bad thing that he might have had a terrible owner. We don't know what he avoided by dying as a puppy, you know? So, and that's the amazing thing, is that we don't know. I mean, the Buddha said, if you try to think about these things, you're going to go crazy. Like, think about the existential, what's going on, how does it work, and what happened to that dog after it died. You know, we have no idea, but we can trust, you know, just trust. I was telling Judy, I heard, or maybe it was Rebecca, but I was talking to them, and when my baby died, for years, I just felt guilty, because you know, I mean, I didn't succeed in keeping her in my uterus, you know, I felt terrible. And then I realized after, you know, I would say about 10 years after she died, I was reading this book, and all of a sudden it dawned on me. I went, this book was about reincarnation. It was really interesting. But the author of this book had lost his son. And so anyway, he was just talking about the grief and blah, blah, blah. But I just realized, I went, she was an old soul, this baby. I mean, what that baby taught me is the biggest lesson of my life. And she's, you know, 6 months in utero, but I can't, and so I realized what lessons I learned from that grief. Unbelievable how much it's carried me through all these years of just empathy, kind of getting, I mean, so many mothers or so many parents lose their kids, just on that level. But there's so much other grief. You see what's going on, and you know, all that news about Gaza, and I just go, oh, Jesus, how are they still standing, you know? It's unbelievable. So I think because I went through that, I have that trust that somehow Sansanim used to say, oh, it's like, you know, just as a simple Buddhist kind of dogmatic thing is, you know, if you make bad karma, bad things happen to you in your next life, you know? It's like, okay, you made bad karma in your last life, so bad things happen. I don't think it's exactly like that, you know? Some of these bad things that happen to us are our best teachers. So we have to trust that we're rolling through, and just try to stay alert, awake, listen, just what we try to do on the cushion. Take it in, watch it, be with it. And if you can't grope it, like, don't hold it, let it flow through, and if anything that's important will come back into your consciousness. But you could tell if it's just junk, you know, just try to come back to the room. Believe me, for me, it's a constant effort not to just start to, I don't even think about things that are important. I'll just sort of go, I'm going to the Cape in September, you know, and I go, yeah, I know that. Like, I'm not gonna start thinking about my vacation in September. But I mean, it's like these things just go through, and I go, okay, drop that one, and something else comes through. Oh, I really like grape nut flakes, you know. It's like, you know, it's like, but we're gonna have oatmeal, but I really like grape. It's like, it's just trash, you know. So you go back to the floor. So I don't care. I've been practicing for longer than you have. It's just one thing after another coming in there, not constantly, but a lot. So,
Using that word trust, you know, it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting that I'll use it for a moment to say that, you know, all these different things that we see going on right now, these horrible things that are happening to us personally, to the world around us, in the world and life that we live.
Yeah.
We have to have some trust in the process of going forward. And I think, of course, I feel that that's something that seems to be missing. And is there a way to develop that trust and acquire it from the practice?
By embracing your grief and your disappointment, you just embrace it and you breathe it through and don't know and be with it, contain it, like, you know, really let it come in, and trust the process. We have some idea that if we were really clear, we'd be able to ride over it some way. You can't have to go through it. You have to go through it. You know, it's just the way it is. There's these beautiful things that we get to go through too, right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, really good things. Hey, if anybody here has a question, let me know. Call it. If you have that yellow hand or whatever. Do you have a question? No, you're just waving. You're just waving. Any other questions? Yes.
Why ask questions?
Because don't know is number one. It's really good. So you ask a question, and then we ask a big question like, what am I? Or where do I come from? What is this? And it's a big question. And then you don't know. You go, don't know. So everything can be a question. You walk into a room and you can develop incredible sensitivity to what's going on in the room by asking, what is this? How is it just now? You're doing a mathematical problem. What is this? How is it just now? You're focusing, you're being with that thing in front of you, whatever it happens to be. It can be swimming, it could be any activity. What is this? How is it just now? And also, rather than preconceiving, this is happening, this is going to happen, that happened, blah, 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 you just go straight with what is this? And then the not knowing is resting the mind so it can perceive what's going on. You know, you ask the question, don't know, and then the don't know isn't the words, oh, I don't know. It's not that. It's just not knowing, so that you let your brain just relax. And then your intuition, your compassion, your wisdom floats up. We're not using our full deck of cards. We're probably, we're not using them all because we're not noticing. We're just assuming all the time, making assumptions. So this is the opposite of assumptions, to ask a question. It's not what is 1 + 2 equals, it's not that. It's what is happening just now. How is it just now? So like Montessori, if you want to teach them math or something, they could cut an apple in thirds and just have them look at the thirds, and then they see, oh, put these three together, it makes one apple. They just can experience by doing, by watching, noticing. Oh, that makes one apple. It's not, you don't have to tell the person, like, notice that. Where's the apple? And then they can do it. But they have to ask, where's the apple? So it's a question. Does that make sense? So it's not complicated. Well, tell me what doesn't make sense.
It feels like your response is saying you ask questions to get more questions.
No, to notice. Ask questions to notice what's going on. Like if you're bird watching, where are the birds? If you're just in general, you're listening, you're watching, you're listening, you're noticing the wind, you're noticing the environment. Where are the birds? So you're doing that to notice, not to make more questions.
Okay.
It's not another question, it's noticing. It's uncomplicating things. You could be start bird watching, oh, I'm not good at this, I'm not gonna find a bird. You really went out there to be in the fresh air and to notice, just to be with. A lot of bird watching it's like fishing. What percentage of fishing is actually catching a fish? They're out there just to be there, really, right? And they usually put the fish back. So it's just noticing and being with. It's the best thing, it's so simple. So what do you want to be with? What are you leaning towards? What am I going to do today? What am I going to study? What am I going to pick? What is this? But you're not making more questions, you're just letting the don't know go to not knowing, and let your intuition come up a little bit. Give it some space. Yeah. Are you doing the retreat? Okay. Good. Well, we'll have an interview too. Any other questions? Yes.
For a while, I've read part of your book, And you were saying that, like, if your practice is to focus on your breath, we always tell people you should instead have a great question, what is this, or something like that. But at one point in my practice, which is, by the way, my practice right now, but at one point my practice was to have the Kwanzaa Boso mantra. That was my practice. And I got really frustrated with it because I felt like I was like blocking everything out. I would sit a whole retreat and everything was effectively blocked out, but I thought, this is, how am I being with what is when everything's blocked out?
Right, it's not always for, mantra practice can be like that for some people. It's not always, it can be very OCD, kind of, people have counters. I did 10,000 Kwanzaa Bosos today, and they can't even tie their shoes, They're like, Kwanzaa Boso, Kwanzaa Boso, Kwanzaa Boso, Kwanzaa Boso. But it can really help sometimes too. It can be very, like if I start to get fear-based, like I really have a hard time going to airports. I'm afraid I'm gonna miss the plane. It goes deep. My father was like that, very anxious about not being on time. And so I saw how anxious it would make him. And I picked up on it. And like, I can't be late, I can't miss the plane. It'll be at like World War III if I miss the plane, And so it's a neurotic. And so I'll go, I'll be on the subway and so I've got to take an hour subway to get to the airport and I'll do Kwanzaa Boso, and it really soothes me. It really, because I'm working with my anxiety. And I displace it with the Kwanzaa Boso. So mantra can just move things over in a really nice way, and then you can breathe. So, and like when I'm walking, I'll do gate, gate, para, gate. It just comes into my head. Gate, gate, para, gate, para, some gate. Because instead of just, I like grape nuts, I'm not, instead of doing that, I really notice the walk with the mantra. I'll just tune in to the walk with the mantra. And I don't do it constantly. I might not do it through the whole walk, but I'll start thinking, and my brain just starts doing the gate gate. It's kind of, we've got a little guardian angel in there somewhere, I swear. And especially if you practice for a while, it's like, shut up and do your mantra, It's like, so there's just ways to do it skillfully, and then but I know just what you're talking about. It can be very compulsive. And not like if chatting, sometimes I try to do when I sit, I try to do the dharani. I have my different things that I do. So because I'm really spacey, so I'll start going Shimyuja, Gode Dharani, Namara Dana Dara Yaya in my head, and I do it for a while and it stops all the thinking. But then I start feeling like I'm, it's like, it just gets like what you were talking, kind of how you were just, I said, get out of here. And then I just want to take a deep breath and be in and of the room, and just, even this little sitting we had before we started tonight, we were waiting, I don't know what we were waiting for the right time, I guess. We sat for 5 minutes or so. And I really felt it was like everybody was sitting. It was really nice. And that was like no mantra, no nothing, just sitting with everybody. So I just try to relax. But you can see when they do help. You can really feel it. We have had people like that were authentic schizophrenics, and authentically, we still have people that are schizophrenics in our school. And gate really helps. If it's grounding, ga, 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 it's very grounding. So Zen Master Soeng Hyang used to say that was the best mantra for people that were hallucinating or really, really anxious. It's just physically grounding. It's a gut comes from your gut, So you start to see how visceral they can be. Yeah. We were at the museum today. Judy and I went to the museum in Kansas City, and we went to that Kwanzaa Boso room, the Avalokiteshvara that maybe most of you have been to. And it was just it's so different from gate gate. It's a whole different love thing. It's just, and one's not better than the other, but just this flowing compassion that, well, of course, in my mind, I already know it represents compassion, but it just feels like that, the way they set that room up. And it's I just got chills. It's magnificent how they set up that room. It's just brilliant. Just sit on those, they have the benches there, and it's like, we need some of that. We need some of that Kwanzaa impulse also, you know. So it's just skillful means, but notice if you're not responding well to something, you should notice that, you know, and then listen to it, shift gears, yeah. Any other questions? Does somebody over here have a question? Yeah,
I don't understand what noticing means.
what means?
Noticing. Earlier when you were answering everyone's questions, you talked about noticing. I don't really have an understanding of what that means.
Well, you know, like yesterday, the snow was very crispy here. The temperature had been never rose, and then something happened with the temperature, and today the snow was slippery. I mean, some of it was frozen, some of it wasn't. You know, we were on some parking lots, you know, garages, and you have to notice, is that ice or is that a puddle? You know, you just notice, right? Because you don't want to break your neck, so you're just noticing. But if you're really spacey, you're going to think it's a puddle, but it's ice, and you're going to break your neck, you know? So it's just attentiveness. It's not always a paranoid attentiveness. It's an accident's going to happen if I don't notice this. But it's just attentiveness. You know?
Perception like this is a puddle, this is a slick puddle, I need to be careful. That all feels like thinking, and I'm wondering the difference.
No, you're just seeing it. There's nothing special about meditation. It's just seeing clearly, right? So red light, stop. Some people, they don't stop at the red light because they're thinking about something. And it's half of the accidents are people just aren't paying attention. So you just pay attention. I don't see why it's not special. It's just noticing. But it is special to notice, you know, and we can notice on a much deeper level especially with people, you know. I was always with humanity. I was always doing Zen or with being a nurse. So I always was with people, and it was very important to notice, still is important to notice what do they need? What is the facial expression? What is their body language, you know? And so it's taken me years, but like, I'll go, am I pissing you off? Like, because I can tell I'm making them mad, you know, because I just said something and they took it a certain way that I didn't mean it, but you know, all of a sudden they go, yes, you are. You know? And then they're impressed with me that I noticed I was making it. Whoa, how did you see that? I said, it's written all over your face. But when I was younger, I would skip a lot. I wouldn't notice because it takes more subtlety to notice someone's facial expression shifts a little bit, or the vibe in the room changes, you know, and that's more subtle. But because you're practicing what is this, and you're noticing, you get better at those things, you know. Sometimes you're still gonna mess up. We have that saying, 7 times fall down, 8 times stand up. Like, you really only have to stand up 7 times, right? You fell down 7 times, stand up 7. But they say 8, it's a joke. Just get ready for the next one, you know? So that was something that was written, I don't know when, years ago, probably in China, right, Stan? 7 times fall down, 8 times stand up. I don't know when it first came out, but people have been falling down for generations. So we're not alone, you know, that's the thing, that just to be patient with yourself. You know, keep trying. Someone said, I read something the other day, said, it's all about the trying, the rest is not important. Don't worry about the rest, just keep trying. It says, keep trying, and then the comma, don't worry about the rest. And that's a good saying for this day and age, you know. We don't know exactly what direction to go and what to do and how to help, but you just got to keep trying to go, you know, just lean into it and see what's going on. Ask, what is this? Any other questions? So can we stop early?
I was wondering if you could end with the story you told last night that you ended with.
The one that you asked me to.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you read my biography, I was a hospice nurse for like 27 years, so I have a lot of experience. the whole time I was a visiting nurse. So I've been in many, many homes and seen many, many families, and I never kept it notes, so it's all a blur. But I've seen a lot, and so this is actually before I was a hospice nurse. I had just met San Sanim. I'd only been living at the Zen Center for a few weeks, and I was doing a night shift job, just temporary work, so I could work whenever they called me. I could say I'm available or I'm not available. So it was perfect for the Zen Center. So I went to work that night, and I was assigned to this patient that was getting private duty help in a hospital. So I went to the hospital, and I went to the desk, and I told them I was going to be with Mr. So-and-so, and there was 2 or 3 nurses at the desk, and they said, "Do you know who that is?" And I was new to Rhode Island. I'd just come from California, and I said, "No, I don't know who it is. It's an Italian name, you know." And they said, "That's the head of the Italian mafia in Rhode Island. The whole state, he was the head of the mafia." And I mean, what do I know? I was young. I was only 24, but I went, okay. But I didn't have to worry because he was in a coma. That's why he was very end of life. He was in a coma. So I went in, and he's got a side. He's just huge, swollen belly. He's orange, and he's very, very, and he hasn't woken up for a couple of days. So the first night, for the job for the nurse would be to turn him every couple of hours, and make sure he's bathed and wet his mouth, and make sure he's comfortable. He's in a coma, but you still want to take care of his skin and make sure he's okay. And but there's a lot of space in between those 2 hours. I'm not a night person. I'd been up all day, and it was really hard to stay awake. And so I kept going like this. It was a horrible night. It felt like it was 16 hours rather than 8. And so then I went home. I went back to the Zen Center in the morning, and I said, "Oh, that was awful." San Sanim asked me how my night was. I said it was awful. I couldn't stay awake. And he said, "Well, just do I was practicing the Dharani. When I sat, I was doing Shem Yuzhen Godei Dharani. So he said, just do your practice in between your activity with him. Just sit quietly in the chair and near him." And actually, I was probably about 5 feet away from him. And I was doing my mantra. So that night, I went over there, and I was doing my mantra, and not making a sound, just internally, Shem Yuzhen Godei Dharani. And all of a sudden, he sits. This is 3 days of a coma. He sits up in bed. And he says, "I don't know what you're doing, but stop it." It really. Then he went right back into his coma, and I was like, I stopped it. I was like, I'm scared of this guy, He just screamed, screamed at me, and. I still can't believe it. I was right there, it happened, And so when I came home that morning, I told San Sanim, my teacher, what happened. He goes, "Oh, demons hate the Dharani. They hate that mantra, And he just started laughing, So that's the power of mantra, though. And because I really had no faith in it. I wasn't like, "Oh, I'm going to help this guy," or I was just doing it to stay awake. That's the only reason I was doing it. And so it was like totally, you could say, "Oh, Bobby has power." It wasn't, it was just the mantra, it was just, and it was silent. But it works. That vibration got to his head. He sat straight up and screamed. It's like, whoa, this thing really works. And then another time we had a monk staying with us, and he was from Korea, of course, and didn't speak hardly any English, and he studied that manual, and he was trying to get his driver's license. San Sanim was helping him get his driver's license, and so he's learning. He knew enough English, he went in and he passed the written test, And then he'd get in the car and he'd get, Sansi called it energy up. His face would get all red. He's so nervous, you know. Sansi goes, oh God, he's got energy up, you know. So we'd wait for him on the curb, wait for him to get back with the driver. The driver would get out and say, oh God, he went through a red light, he turned left on, you know, and he said he didn't pass. So you have to wait. I guess you could do it pretty soon after that, but altogether, he took the test 3 times. The third time, it was me and San Sanim and one of the other students. And he said, let's just do Kwanzaa Bosa for him. Just sit on this curve. Kwanzaa Bosa, Kwanzaa Bosa, Kwanzaa Bosa. And so we just did nonstop Kwanzaa Bosa on the curb, the 3 of us. Kwanzaa Bosa, Kwanzaa Bosa, Kwanzaa Bosa, Kwanzaa Bosa, just with him in mind, like pass the test, pass the test, pass the test. And so he comes back and the guy gets out, he goes, well, he turned left from the right lane and he didn't put his signal on and he couldn't park it correctly. And he goes, but I'm going to pass him. And Sasha looked at me and said, see? It's amazing. Yeah. So you don't want to do it, like if you get the wrong energy with a mantra, I'll have my son not get he won't get the disease because I'm going to do Kwanzaa. And we don't know, but there is something to mantra, I swear. It's amazing. And I've never used it again. I don't use it to try to change things so much. I don't. I just try to get myself to stop thinking. But I don't know, those 2 times it really was amazing. So I'm glad I made you laugh, and now we can suffer with it. I know, I love silence, and I wanted to stress to please keep silent, and don't go off on a walk with someone and start yapping. Try not to go. If you go out to walk, just go by yourself, you know. Don't pair up, and it's just you're just draining. It's like you're trying to fill up a tub and you're just pulling the plug and losing some of the water every time you do that. So if we all keep silence until Sunday, until it's time for lunch, it'll be even keep silence before the circle talk. I don't know if you're gonna have a little break, but I really like it when the circle talk immediately you know, we don't break the silence, then we have a circle talk, and that's the first time we actually talk to each other. It's very powerful. So try to do that. I hope that you behave. And if I see you doing it, I'm going to go up and go, shh. That's what I do. So, okay, thank you. Thank you online.
So I wanted to make a quick announcement. We're going to have about 10, 15 minutes in between. So people on the retreat who are online, maybe come back in 10 minutes to the retreat.